Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Nationalist. I'm your host and analyst, Kennedy Abongo. Today's topic is why Ruto must move to strike out the affidavits filed by the commissioners. Before we do that, I would kindly ask you to subscribe to our channel, leave a like, share. We'd really love to see what kind of comments and what type of videos or topics you'd like us to cover. Therefore, leave our comments down there. On to the topic of the day. Why must Ruto lawyers move to strike out the evidence by the IEBC commissioners? First of all, the commission operates as an institution. It is sued by a party who is disgruntled with the results as an institution. It is the first time in our country that individual commissioners have been sued, and the evidence that comes from those individual commissioners is contradicting the position of the commission itself. The commission owns the results. The constitution requires that they operate as a unit, that they verify, tally, and finally the tallied and verified results is given to the chairman to announce to the nation. In this particular instance, however, we had 4 commissioners disowning the results declared by the commission. And therefore, this hurts the case of the person of William Ruto, who was declared as the president-elect. So what would Ruto want as a strategy? The strategy is to ensure that the evidence that goes to the Supreme Court from the commission speaks as one. And to do so is to ensure that all the other affidavits by the commissioners are struck off the record of the court. Because that is a critical evidence that is greatly supporting the other side. So they could argue in the Supreme Court that it was not proper to include the commissioners individually in the petition, that only the IEBC commission as an institution and the chairman of the commission should have been sued. What, however, are the challenges that they may face if they decide to move and strike out the evidence by those commissioners? The challenge that comes with it is that the chairman, in putting his affidavit on behalf of the commission, is accusing the other 4 commissioners of trying to force a rerun, and therefore is adversely mentioning the other 4 commissioners in an affidavit that should have been owned by all those 4 commissioners. And therefore we have a fight within the commission itself that makes it impossible for the court not to look at the evidence that is coming from those commissioners. Another thing, to move to strike out the evidence by the 4 commissioners would mean that Ruto would also have to move to strike out the evidence of the 2 commissioners, especially Boya Mulu and Commissioner Gulie, who greatly supports his case. The evidence of those 2 commissioners, Boya and Gulie, are very grave. They raise very grave allegations with respect to how the 4 commissioners intended to bungle or force a runoff. So if you look at the whole scenario, Ruto is caught between a rock and a hard place. Because on the one hand, you'd want a commission that is united and present evidence in one accord. However, you have a commission that is disunited and dysfunctional. You have people giving contradictory evidence. All in all, the best move, regardless of what the evidence of the other 2 commissioners impacts on Ruto's case, is to strike out all those affidavits by the commissioners, including the affidavits that support his case. so that you remain with only the affidavit by Mr. Chebukati, who is the chairman of the commission. In that way, Ruto will have an easier way to defend his win. So in my view, I suspect that Ruto lawyers will on Monday move to court to strike out all the affidavits, and if not all, the affidavits by the 4 commissioners specifically. So what would remain on record is, or what they would seek to remain on record, is the affidavit of Chebukati, who is the chairman of the commission. Another question, however, is the challenge that the Supreme Court may face in granting that prayer. I do not see a scenario where the chairman of the commission adversely mentions other commissioners as seeking to force a runoff, and the court decides to strike out their affidavits completely without giving them a chance to respond. So even though that is a move that Ruto should try at the pretrial, it is a prayer that I find would not be an easy one for the Supreme Court to grant. That marks the end of this episode. Our position remains: for Ruto to mount a proper defense, he must move to strike out all the affidavits by the commissioners, including the affidavits by Boyamulu and Gulier, so that the defense can be seamless.